and welcome to the Staunch Talk Show. Ndingu Princess Mahogo, Mamjaku Katechmayaha Uma Zaleni, and thank you so much for joining us once again on this episode of the show. Today, I have a lovely lady next to me, Phetho Ntaba from the National Consumer Commission. She is the spokesperson. She actually said that she wants to also introduce herself with iziduko zakhe. So the floor is yours, madam.
Inkosi mamjahe gamla ndinguphetho Ntaba ke mamusiya musemutuba zomansathe ndio medicine ndio mela mukhobo ndio mele kantle mabale.
Look at me trying to relate. Oh my goodness, that came out so bad, but anyway, it's fine. Mom, I'm sorry for embarrassing you on the internet. I tried. I did my best. So she's joining us today, and she will be telling us a bit more about what the National Consumer Commission does and the role that it plays in society. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Phetho.
I'm so excited.
So just for someone who is watching the show and has never heard of the National Consumer Commission, could you please just briefly let us know what it is and what you do?
Actually, it's actually highly possible that someone has never heard of the NCC. The National Consumer Commission was established through the Consumer Protection Act. We were established to enforce that particular act. We are based in Pretoria, but of course with a footprint throughout the country, where we look at consumer issues, from educating consumers about their rights, and of course responsibilities, and also nudging suppliers in as far as compliance with the law and the prescripts of the CPA. Of course, time to time we do inspections using various sections of the law, and of course receive complaints from consumers, investigate. At times we mediate or complaints get resolved even before getting to the tribunal. But we investigate and then take matters to the consumer tribunal on behalf of the consumer for free. So once they file their complaints with the NCC where there's a dispute in the market, then they just need to fold their arms. Once we receive all the information, they don't need to get the services of a lawyer. We will do that on their behalf. And of course, with also issues of research to see what has changed in the market, with the idea or the aim is to influence reform to the minister and say, these are the trends, this is how we think we can best protect consumers. We do a lot of collaboration with other regulators as well in the consumer protection space, because it's not ourselves only. We have other regulators where they look at different laws, like specifics or specifications rather. We have a regulator responsible for specifications. Let's say, for example, certain motor vehicles or parts of that particular car. Team stuff, for example, it has to be this thick and. So those are the nitty-gritties of consumer protection. And of course, if we do it alone as the NCC, it might not be this fun. We might not get to resolve as many complaints or educate consumers. But if you all come together, we have formed something that we call a Consumer Protection Forum. I think we have about 18 members thereabout, various regulators, from NERSA, ourselves, the Competition Commission, you name them. Anything that has got to do with consumer protection, we are there. We then plan some activities, inspections, just to make sure that we all protect our consumers.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that viewers at home or people who have complaints can complain to the National Consumer Commission. Could you please take us through the process, just for someone who doesn't know? How do they go about filing a complaint?
All right. So we first say consumer protection starts with you, actually. You go to the store, you buy something, and then when you get home, you realize that actually it's faulty, it's defective. You then take it back to the supplier and say, store manager, I bought it this year and it's defective. Or within a period of 6 months, it gave me issues. Then you have the right to say to the supplier, I want you to refund me, I want you to replace it, or I want you to repair. Let's say it's a vehicle, I want you to repair it. You tell them what you want within that period of 6 months. And then of course they will say, nah, we cannot repair, we cannot replace, because at times they will say you've signed a particular certificate to say whatever happens to this car or this television, you would now not going to bring it back to the supplier. So already there's a dispute there because they refused to give you redress. There's a dispute. You then come to the National Consumer Commission. We've simplified things. People of the internet, as your audience, we have also simplified things. Now you file a complaint electronically. Simple, you go to our website, you have to create a profile just so that we are certain that we're talking to a human being, not a robot, right? The system will ask you pretty simple questions, your name, surname, your all your personal details. And of course you file a complaint, the nature of the complaint, all the steps that you've taken, the whatever documentation that you need to attach, and then you submit your complaint. And of course you will receive a reference number. You can then go back and log in, just like your bank account, where from time to time you log in and check whether your bank is still happy. So you will be able to see how far we are or where your complaint is. So that's the process. Basically, we do it digitally.
All right. Are there any limitations? I heard you talking about car parts. Now that we know how to file a complaint, so are there limitations as to what kind of products or things that people can report complaints or conflicts about? You mentioned car parts, and I heard you speaking about tin foods, which is basically food. So what other areas do you cover?
Okay. The Consumer Protection Act is very clear to say goods and services. By goods, we starting with this chair, the timepiece, camera, your shoes, motor vehicles, roofing sheets, the issues of quality. Vehicles, as mentioned, could be the issue of quality, that you bought a vehicle and then it failed, within a certain period of time. And of course, services, contracts here. Let's say you have taken a contract with a particular service provider, you now want to cancel, and they give you either a runaround, they don't cancel, or they say they want a particular penalty, like a 75% penalty of cancellation. So basically, they are forcing you to stay. That's when you come into the National Consumer Commission. You have bought or made reservations, you want to use a particular venue, and then for some reason they are not able to now provide the service. They want to charge you or whatever. So goods and services, this is where we come in. Financial issues are excluded from the Consumer Protection Act. We have the banking ombuds, we have the National Credit Regulator. They're responsible for financial issues. And of course the insurance as well, they have their own. But goods and services, we are there.
So basically a person doesn't need to have a lawyer to contact you guys for the issue to be resolved. They just call you, and once you have all the information you have from them, you take it from there.
They don't need to have a lawyer. Our law, the CPA, actually excludes lawyers, if I can put it that way. Maybe let me paraphrase. The CPA is very clear to say who can file a complaint. You and I as consumers, and of course if there's an interested group, they can file complaints. But if you are filing a complaint on behalf of somebody else, you have to prove that you are filing a complaint on behalf of someone who cannot either see or read to understand, all those other things. But it's so simple, at least from what we see, or what we have done as far as, even when we're using a manual form, very straightforward. What happened, when, proof, what do you want, and then you submit that. The same goes in the electronic version of it, that it is so simple. Because with lawyers, we've actually realized that we know the services of an attorney. For every email, phone call, or whatever communication, they will charge you. So we're sitting with a matter of a complaint, of a consumer who filed a complaint, and of course they use the services of an attorney. The matter went to as far as the High Court. Now when it gets to the High Court, they had to charge him. As the National Consumer Commission, because we are defending this matter, we also paid something just above $500,000 for that one complaint to defend the matter at the High Court. We got a ruling or a judgment from the tribunal in favor of the consumer, but the supplier was not happy. So they had to take the matter for appeal. And of course, we had to also say we are, still very much party to the matter. Now it's the services of that particular lawyer and the services of our lawyer. We had to get a senior counsel. So we're talking about just above $1 million for one matter. If we pay and then the consumer pays as well, is there value to that? You cannot have. You might want to, but it's going to cost you.
And the issue is that the consumer is defending their right, because we have a right to healthy food being sold to us, for example, and products that are of high quality and value.
Correct.
So now you were trying to defend your own right, and now you end up with the bill
with
that
the
you
bill
can't
of the
settle.
Now, when you look at the matter, I think the value of the car was just below 150,000 rands versus 500,000 that we paid, and the amount that they are going to pay. So those are the things that we say. If you are going to use the service of a lawyer, be clear and ask them to say, how much are you going to charge me? What is it that you're going to do? NCC, what is it that you're going to do? How different is the service of the lawyer from your service? Because at the end of the day, we have to take that matter to the consumer tribunal, right? And defend the matter ourselves. And of course, the supplier will bring their own lawyers. So those are some of the issues I think that consumers really need to understand. Yes, because it's an investigation, it can take longer. We really understand that. But we also say, can we just be patient? Exercise a bit of patience. We will resolve your matter.
Yeah.
Where we cannot resolve a matter, for example, if it is prescribed. By prescription, we're referring to a matter, let's say you bought something in 2020, for example, and then a dispute arose in 2020. You bought a vehicle, they did not fix it in 2020. Now it's 2024. The prescription law says you cannot now take a matter to the consumer tribunal 3 years after a dispute had arose. Now, in those cases, we look at when was the dispute, when you try to address the issue with the supplier. If it's 3 years ago, we then say, okay, we cannot take your matter to the tribunal. We'll then issue a non-referral. But if you still want to go to the tribunal, we can do so, or even use the services of a lawyer. But you need to know as a consumer that it is going to cost you, to use the services of an attorney or a law firm. Of course, at times we don't take matters if they don't give us information to say, indeed, there's a dispute here. Someone alleges that they bought and something was defective. We then say, give us proof that indeed you bought this particular camera, for example, and it was defective and whatnot. We don't get those. There has to be an allegation and proof of service or proof of purchase. So that when we take your matter to the tribunal, they don't poke holes, and we need to be clear. Yes, we need to be clear. There's a dispute. There was a purchase or a transaction. There's a dispute. They did not want to resolve, or they couldn't meet each other halfway. We investigated and we have everything, then we are able now to take your matter to the tribunal. Of course, it's very nice when we receive a judgment in favor of a consumer, and when a consumer says, yes, my matter was resolved, or once they received communication from the commission, they then said, the supplier will say, you know what, it's fine, we are going to resolve this matter. It really sits well with us. But we always say, it really shouldn't even get there. Suppliers are encouraged to have a dispute resolution mechanism somewhere, a desk somewhere, so that when you have a dispute as a consumer, you go there, it easily gets resolved.
Too many parties.
Exactly, because it takes longer. Can you imagine a case of someone who says, I bought this couch, it's very defective, I cannot use it, but I'm still paying for it. Or a vehicle, I'm still paying for it. It's parked outside, I'm using a taxi, it's summer. I come back home around 8 in the evening. Or I bought this taxi because I wanted to use it, for transport, to transport the kids, to make extra cash, or make ends meet. But now I can't use it.
But you're still paying.
I'm still paying for this particular car. Nature of our work, our investigations, again, depending on the complexity of the matter, they can take longer. can be frustrating to a consumer. And we believe that it shouldn't even get there. Suppliers are really required and expected to understand the provisions of this Consumer Protection Act, whereby we all promote this consumerism and harmony in the market. That once I buy something and I'm happy, I can refer you. I can refer somebody else. And that's the harmony we want to see. But if you cannot really be comfortable when you go out and buy, how do you recommend somebody else? You know, there are certain things like process like the terms and conditions that we see consumers you know, getting signed, are being made to sign by the suppliers, particularly when it comes to motor vehicles. That we bought it from other service providers, we bought it either from people who are doing trade-ins and all that. So whatever happens to the car, you're not going to come back to us. Already
complain.
Exactly. Already, one, that condition, it's not in the spirit of consumer protection. Secondly, you are depriving the consumer of their right to redress. And of course, you are now saying, as a supplier, I'm not responsible. You are saying this game.
Yeah, because that looks shady. Because why should you have that clause if you have nothing to hide? Because it's as if you know you're already selling them something that has a default, basically.
And the CPA requires that if there's a defect, you say to a consumer, this is a defect. If you use this particular let's say it's a shoe, for example, it's size 6 and size 6.5. If you wear it, this is what is going to happen. You need to be clear. Just be explicit and say, if you continue using this vehicle, or if you use this vehicle, the engine is dead. Basically, it won't switch on.
Once it has been used before, it's a second-hand product. Don't lie and make it as if like it's a brand new
misrepresent. Exactly.
Yes.
Even if it's a second-hand vehicle or second-hand television, there's a provision that within a period of 6 months, a minimum period of 6 months at least, it shouldn't give me problems. Now, imagine going to a store, you buy a car, and then they say it's going to give you problems. Of course, I will walk away. I don't want to buy something that is going to give me problems. But we've seen complaints, we've seen consumers coming through saying, I bought it and then I drove 20 kilometers away from the dealership. It started smoking and, you know, it broke down, you know, engine seized and whatnot. And you get reasons like, no, it was a driving behavior.
And now the contract says as soon as the car leaves the premises of the dealership,
no longer the problem, you know. So we're saying to consumers, read your terms and conditions to understand. It's best that you get a supplier where you are going to be comfortable with the terms and conditions, with how they conduct the business. You don't want to walk into a store where they say no refund, no replacement, and what have you. Without even, and then you still comfortably buy. You buy a television, when you get home, it speaks Mandarin, or Swahili, but you don't even understand what it says. And then when you take it back, they say, no refund, no exchange.
And for those consumers who maybe are not, who didn't go to school or maybe don't know how to read, it's advised, as much as maybe you have the money to buy something, go with someone who is able to read, who can better advise you, who will be able to read through the contract for you before you sign your life away to something that you are not even sure of, like what it means, what those words mean. So it's always advised.
It's always exactly. It's always advisable that you get someone who understands the product. Again, I'm going to make an example of a vehicle. We go into a silly season where we'll be buying the Black Friday. It's just around the corner, a few weeks away. There's going to be discounts and. Understand the terms and conditions. If you're going to buy a vehicle, test drive that car. Nothing stops you from test driving the vehicle. Another thing that I actually learned that we actually overlook is when the car was manufactured. If you want to buy a particular car, you check the car model, you then check the speedometer. You know, see if it matches. You then check the interior of a car. A car that was built or started being distributed in 2023, the interior shouldn't look like a car that was, made available in 2016, for example. So those are the small things that we really take for granted. And of course, when they say, this one, we're going to fix it. And this one, what else? You might realize that actually you are committing your money to something that you're not also going to enjoy. Test drive that car, read the terms and conditions, question the terms and conditions. And of course, just remind them that you understand your rights as a consumer, because it's going to save you the trouble of now having to pay for something that you are not using, or them. I can imagine the disappointment when you buy a car and thinking that you will, when you get home, you'll go to Mama, I bought a car, Dad, I bought a car, and when you get home, you are still using a taxi, you're using a bus. With the Black Friday, understand the specials. If they say this television is going to be 3,000 rands from whatever price, 15,000, whatever the price, by now you should know exactly what is it that you'll be buying come the Black Friday, how much was it during the year, in January. Don't start comparing the prices in October or November, because already prices might look like they're going up or they're coming down or whatever. That you wanted that television, since last year in December. You're like, I missed this year's Black Friday. To come 2024, I have, put aside whatever amount. Now, when they say it was 12,000, it's now 7,000, and then you look at the catalog, it's like, actually, it has always been 4,000 rands. Those are some of the things that you need to really pay attention to as a consumer, so that you enjoy your money. It is within your right to say no to this one. And then, of course, where there's a dispute or you are not happy, you can come to the National Consumer Commission. So we say to consumers, if you have any question or queries, or you don't know how to file a complaint, you're struggling with with the website or the portal, you can contact us on 012-065-1940. And of course, you can also even go just to our website, browse through using isiXhosa, Sesotho, isiZulu, English, and Afrikaans. We've tried that we actually accommodate as many South Africans as possible. And of course, our the translation is Google dependent. So you might find it would say,
translation is not make sure.
It's not make sure, But again, because it might be a bit technical, but at least you get to understand the gist, of what you're trying to do or what you really want to understand. So we are always available. We try by all means to avail ourselves, and of course, if you have some other queries to say, do I have an issue here? I just need a legal opinion. We do provide non-binding legal opinion to say, yes, this is what should have happened. And of course, it's non-binding, but this is the route that we advise that you take. File a complaint, then we'll be able to take a matter or investigate, and where possible, then take a matter to the National Consumer Tribunal. Because what we really want to see, we want to make sure that consumers do get redress. They have the right to be heard as a consumer. By the markets, of course, and by the authorities. And of course, at times when we receive a complaint that does not fall within the jurisdiction of the NCC, it's not Consumer Protection Act related, like credit, for example, then refer those consumers to the relevant authorities.
So just to clarify then, firstly, who is allowed to report to the NCC? Is it for South Africans strictly, or can our international guests also report to the NCC?
So anyone in the Republic of South Africa, whether you are South African by birth, or you are in South Africa, for work purposes, whatever, or even international consumers, you are in Malawi or wherever, but you bought in South Africa, either online in South Africa, for as long a transaction took place in South Africa, or you transacted with a South African supplier, you are more than welcome to file a complaint with the National Consumer Commission. Of course, for international consumers or someone who is outside the Republic of South Africa, for them to file a complaint, they won't be able to go to the website, but they have to call us, and we'll make a provision. We've made a provision rather for someone, for example, let's say in India, they bought in South Africa, they can file a complaint, and of course we will then communicate with them via email. But for South Africans, it's very straightforward. You buy something in South Africa, you're not happy, they cannot resolve it, you then file a complaint with us. There are issues of online, particularly now with the silly season, where we have the so-called suppliers who are actually masquerading as suppliers. In actual fact, they squat your website or they steal your website. Change one thing. Instead of letter L, for example, they put 1. And you might not actually see that, as a consumer, you might not see that there's a difference now, right? So we say, please watch out and just be sure that you don't open any link that suggests that there's a special or whatever. You need to punch the website itself, and then you are able to transact. You are in South Africa, you purchased abroad. We know that we have now infiltration of online stores, abroad. Others would come and say the issue of quality, the issue of, and while there are other laws that actually protect consumers in as far as, those transactions, but we really say that understand their return policy, understand their terms and conditions before transacting, so that when you have an issue, looking at our laws at the moment, while we are still trying to engage with other regulators, just really to see how best we can really protect South African consumers. At times we do, when we get a complaint, just reach out and then they quickly resolve that particular matter, because no one wants to be on the wrong side of the law, be it in South Africa or anywhere in the country. But of course we say just exercise caution. If they normally say if it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. You can't buy something that was worth 20,000, you buy for 200 rand. Something is not right, someone shared a link of this nice sneaker. We know the price is like 1.7, and then it was selling for 4.99. I'm like, hey, what's wrong? Yeah. She's like, no, I just want to check whether this is. I'm like, no, it's not. It cannot. This is the website. This is the price. Check this website. It's like, you see now. So we say really, please exercise caution.
And we see a lot of those towards the end of the year. They know that people are not going to be paying that much attention to anything. They just want to buy.
We investigate matters because we want, number one, that consumers get redress, but of course we want to change the practice in the market, right? Terms and conditions that we are not comfortable or are not in line with the Consumer Protection Act. Those are the things that you really want when we take matters, that we deal with those and then just we clean that process. It's a bit tricky, but once we take matters to the tribunal and we get judgment in favor of the consumer, we hope and believe that actually deters some of the suppliers in terms of now engaging in the same prohibited conduct. And of course, lastly, we say to South African consumers, do exercise caution. Don't sign terms and conditions that you're not comfortable with. And of course, when it comes to your pyramid schemes, your multiplication schemes, you are not protected in as far as the consumer protection is concerned. That's one section that talks about a person. It no longer says a consumer, it says a person, because you are now a participant. And once you participate, you promote a pyramid scheme or you recruit others, you have contravened or you have offended the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act.
Thank you so much, Ms. Phetho, for your time and taking this time to speak with us. I've definitely learned something new today, and I hope that you did as well. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. We will see you next time. Goodbye.